This is Lucky Smith with Star Over News Magazine. Today is September 23rd. I'm here in Pasadena, California with
Rich Ferguson.
Hey, Rich. I understand that you are a spoken word artist.
Yes, I am a spoken word artist. Which basically, I guess, means that I write poetry, perform it. Sometimes I perform solo. Sometimes, since I'm also a musician, I'll sometimes perform my poetry with a musical backdrop as well.
We've just recently featured Time by you, and I love that.
All the times?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That, not just the poetry, but the way you did it with like the rock feel of it and the music video, and it's like kind of like it's very diverse from what you normally would expect poetry to be.
Well, that was that was kind of a conscious intention on my part from years of sort of like going to open poetry readings and seeing the poets get up and sometimes people not really paying much attention, and then the one guy gets up with the acoustic guitar and everyone's like, yeah, and I was just like, and I was already a musician, so it was just like, yeah, I get it, music's very powerful, and I just was like, I should really make a conscious effort to do some of my, bridge that gap and do some of my poetry with music, because potentially it could be a way to bring some people into poetry that might otherwise feel like, oh, poetry, it's too stuffy, it's too, alienating or whatever, precious.
But the thing is that you don't meet a lot of people who are in rock bands and do poetry. What, do you have a rock band? You're in a rock band as well, correct?
I've been in bands that are more rock. I don't know if I would necessarily consider the one I'm in now rock. We do a couple things that are rock, but I've definitely been in bands that were sort of rock where I could kind of do some of my poetry. Definitely I have some, I don't know if you'd call them heroes, sort of heroes, or inspirations that have come from music and have blended their poetry with it. Patti Smith, a big example, and Jim Carroll, both of them were huge influences for me to see, this is how you can bring poetry and music together, and successfully, too. Especially in the case of Patti Smith.
And what's the name of your band that you're in right now?
We Voice Sing.
We Voice Sing?
Yeah, it's sort of, it's kind of, I play with a musician, Bo Blount, and he creates these sort of electronica-based tracks, which have a lot of different elements, rock, more of sort of a, some of them kind of a more sort of, how would I describe it? Sort of maybe a little kind of maybe a loungy, or not loungy, because when I think of loungy, I think of like lounge jazz or something. It's definitely a departure from what I'm used to doing, because I'm more used to performing with live musicians and just really kind of thrashy at times. So this is kind of an interesting departure for me, because it's, working with tracks that are very, that have a structure to them, and I kind of have to, Bo and I work really hard on sort of creating a structure for the track, but once it's created, I kind of have definite confines where I have to hit certain marks within the track, and so it's definitely a little more disciplined for me than in the past, where I could be a bit more freeform.
What do your vocals on, and what instrument do you play with the band?
Really nothing. We went through a phase where I was playing a little acoustic guitar, but I'm so physical when I perform and stuff that I kind of
just with the vocals,
rather just do the vocals, but we did experiment with me playing some electric, sort of rhythm electric, and that's cool. It was kind of fun, but I kind of just like performing and flailing around.
How long have you guys been together?
Maybe about 2 years now. We're just finishing up a record. We're getting ready to release our first record, probably October, mid to late October, beginning of November.
Next performance, or where can people find you guys at, or book you guys?
Well, we have a Facebook page. We have some videos on YouTube. We don't have any shows scheduled right now because I think really we're putting all of our energy into finishing the record, and probably our next show will be our record release party, which I don't know when and where that'll be yet.
Give us your YouTube page, your Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, really, if anyone goes on YouTube and just, I think it's it's youtube.com/We Voice Sing, and then Facebook. I think if they just put, I think it's probably the same thing for Facebook, or if they just type in We Voice Sing on either YouTube or Facebook, they'd find it. And also, I have my individual spoken word poetry music videos, on a ton of them on YouTube, probably at this point about 14 or 15.
That's all under Rich Ferguson.
Yeah, well, that's under youtube.com/Fuzzy Doodah. But really, if anyone puts in Rich Ferguson poetry,
yeah,
they'll find it. But there's also a magician named Rich Ferguson, and he gets a lot of hits too. So it's they usually have to put Rich Ferguson poetry. I once had someone Google my name once, and they wrote me and they were like, "I didn't know you did magic," and I was like, "I don't do magic," and they're like, "Oh, there's a
Rich Ferguson
magician." It's like, he's actually a nice guy. We've actually corresponded. We're Facebook friends too. But he's pretty good. He's been like on Ellen DeGeneres and stuff, and
that's pretty cool.
He's pretty hilarious. He actually, and he's been on like the Craig Ferguson show, and he wrote me a while back and said, "Oh yeah, I'd like to pitch the producers of Craig Ferguson's show to have a night where it's just like people named Ferguson are performing, and you could do some spoken word." And I'd be like, "Yeah, that's cool."
And how long have you been doing spoken word now?
Oh, for a while now. I would say good. I mean, in the capacity that I'm doing it now, a good like 15 years or something. I mean, it's like...
What got you into it? Because there's not a lot of people that, like, a lot of like the spoken word is either you're a career writer, but most part is kind of like you see the younger crowd and then it switches over because it's like a phase for them, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and spoken word's a funny thing, because it's one of those things, like, it had a big heyday back in the 90s, and there was like the MTV raps and the different, Deaf Poetry Jam, and so it definitely goes through these like ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys, and then sometime 1 year it's fashionable, and then the next year it's like whatever. That's whatever. I mean, for me, I mainly just do it because I just sort of need to do it. So whether it's in fashion or out of fashion or whatever. But
you believe poetry?
Yeah. I mean, and what got me into it? I mean, I've kind of been writing I've enjoyed writing and reading ever since I was a little kid, and my mom always fostered that love of reading and writing. So it's kind of always been with me, but I was doing it some when I played in my regular bands.
Okay.
But once I sort of broke away from the regular band thing, back in the like mid to late 90s, I really started pursuing it like full on a lot more, just more sort of poetry and by that point I had done the band thing for a while, so I sort of, once I had done the poetry thing, just straight poetry, I was like, I think it's time to bring some music back into this and kind of bridge that gap.
But did you find it harder when you were younger being a male poet? Because poetry, a lot of people think about poetry, they think female spectrum of poetry, like it's acceptable, it seems like, for females to be poets, but with men, I don't know. I mean, did you find?
I mean, I lived in San Francisco for a little while before I came to LA, and so it's like there it was extremely acceptable, you know.
Yeah,
just like
everybody had like
men, women,
beat
you know,
clubs
and we had, you know, influences like
beat
Kerouac
bars.
and Ginsberg, and so yeah, I mean, I didn't find it hard at all.
Not at all.
Nah.
And how did you fall in love into poetry? Like, when did it happen? Was it something you were always exposed to when you were younger?
Yeah,
or?
yeah. I just always enjoyed reading, and then when I came out to California and I went to San Francisco, literally my first stop in San Francisco was City Lights Bookstore, and I picked up a copy of Gregory Corso's Gasoline, and was just like, I want to do this. I want to like write poetry and like, you know, go to poetry readings, and so I did. I just started going to poetry readings, and you know, really wasn't very good, but I think I had a lot of passion and drive for it, and I think people saw that, and even some of the old kind of the old guard in San Francisco, kind of some of them took me under their wing because they saw that I was like passionate about it and like was really driven, and they were like, come on kid, I'll take you under my wing and teach you a few things, and it was cool. I was always really lucky that way, but I think it was just because people could see that my heart was really into it and that I wanted to get better, and so I think I literally sort of grew up on stage because I just kept putting myself out there and going to readings every week and just sort of sucking in public, but just sort of getting a little better over time. And so, and you know, and just
that is poetry, though. It's a piece of your heart.
Yeah,
it's an aspect of your heart. You know, there's like a lot of people don't understand that, but it's an aspect of how you view something. Maybe it's fictional or non-fictional, but it's from our eyes or our perspective that of what we want to show. So, because I write poetry too, so I can understand that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, you know. And I say this, you know, because I've just sort of seen it over the years, and I mean it's funny and it's true, you know, because poetry is a part of our hearts, and you know, when I first started going to poetry readings, I thought, yeah, poets will be really sensitive and helpful to one another, and they'll see how each one of us are revealing ourselves to one another. But man, over the years,
chop each other
have seen some of the nastiest backbiting, like poets just cutting other poets down, and it's just like, and the first time I saw it really took me by surprise. I was like, holy shit, I never expected like poets would do this to each other.
Because we're writers, and writers, all writers to some extent are narcissistic. I don't care who you are. I'm not, you know, we write to be read, and it's very competitive, because if you're a better writer than I am, that means you might take some of my readers from me. I don't think that way, but I could see it, especially when you're insecure about your writing. So it's not a supportive field. It's more like you got to have the guts to do it yourself. Or
no, and that's a really good point, because I've definitely over the years been in situations where and a number of these, I think, when I started doing poetry in clubs like that were expecting bands, and I'd sometimes get up on a mic and just like do a poem, and sometimes people got it and were really cool, but sometimes people just were like, you know, fuck this, we want to hear the band, what are you getting up there and doing some like damn poem, you know, we don't want to hear a poem, and you know, and it was just like, I mean, you know, and I've had some situations where like I've like gotten in some people's faces, like come off the stage and like gotten in people's faces and just like, you know.
Wow, like bar fights over freaking poetry. That's insane.
Yeah, and like, you know, like, or if I were at a club doing a poem and someone was like catcalling me or something from the audience, I'd get off the stage and just like go up right in their face like this and basically finish off the poem in their face.
Oh my God.
So, you know, I've had those situations too, but you know, sometimes those are the ones
that's the rocker in you, right?
Yeah. So sometimes those are the ones that have just said, yeah, I'm a fucking poet, and you know,
fuck you
if you don't like it, you know. And
where are you originally from? You're not California native, because
no.
that. Yeah.
North Carolina and New Jersey.
Okay, so I can see where the spunk came from, was from the Jersey, because I have family from the East Coast, and they're kind of more like, you don't like what I'm wearing, you don't like me, fuck you. So I can see that attitude.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in Cali for now? Like
about 20 years.
20 years.
So good year, yeah.
So you still have? Has California changed you as far as being more laid back? Or?
A little. Except when I'm in my car driving.
Oh my God!
And I try to be.
Road rage, right?
No. Not that bad, but it's funny. It's like no. I mean, I've definitely sort of mellowed out since I've been here. I was probably a little more mellow when I lived up in San Francisco, just because I think to be in LA, you have to be a little bit more driven, okay. I mean, LA isn't really.
Shark Tank.
Yeah, I mean, LA isn't really a place I would come to just sort of hang out. You know, I wouldn't want to just come to LA to just sort of hang out and live. And I mean, I sort of came here for a reason, and you know, I'm sort of really grateful to LA for that, because it offers so many diversions. At any one given time, you could be doing so many other things except what you came here to do, and it's really sort of helped to focus me, because I sort of pushed those, not pushed them away, but just said, okay, why? It constantly made me question myself. Okay, why am I here in LA? Why am I here in LA? It's not to do all these other things. I'm here to do this work. And so
you're here for the music, or you're here for both the music and the poetry?
Both, because at this point in my life, they're kind of like this. They're just sort of so
intertwined.
Yeah, they're just so entwined, and just it's hard for me to separate the two at this point. But so it's really.
And you also have a day job as well.
Yeah, right? Teacher. I teach elementary school.
You teach elementary school.
Yeah, so 4th and 5th grade.
4th and 5th grade. And how long have you been teaching now?
This is going on my 12th year.
12 years.
12 years.
And do you integrate poetry a lot with your students, or music?
Yeah.
And does it make a difference? Does it help?
I would like to think so. I would like to hope so. You know. I definitely share my appreciation, my love of music and poetry with them. You know, like if I'm teaching a lesson and it makes me think of a song title, I have a computer in my class so I can get right on iTunes and download a song and say, oh, and that, you know, or if we're doing a lesson, the theme of the lesson reminds me of a certain song or a certain poem or something, you know, I'll either like Google the poem and read the poem to them in class, or get on YouTube and show them a video, or get on iTunes and play a song for them. So I'm, you know, because the arts have been cut so much in LA public schools that they really have nothing now. I mean, they used to have a regular music teacher. They used to have, like, you know, visual arts programs where like painters came in and did visual arts. We have none of that now. So really, that's all kind of on me.
And then after arts is like physical. It's like, what's sad is that once taxpayers, people who are voting don't realize, if you cut arts and physical activity, what we're raising our future to be is children who are going to be obese without creative thinking, because arts actually promotes creative thinking and critical thinking. And without creative or critical thinking, if you can't Google it, you're going to be stuck.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of what you're talking about is sort of short-term thinking. A lot of these people, when they cut these things, don't think of the long-term, like, how are these short-term fixes?
Yeah,
like
they're gearing it to be more of a Google generation, where it's like immediate gratification without any in-depth connection to the research.
Yeah.
That's what the problem that I have with them cutting everything, cutting arts. Like when I went to school, there was an actual class on poetry. Now it's obsolete. You don't get poetry unless you decide to go to college,
right,
or have exposure. So I'm glad that you teach your kids that.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, it's funny. Because I've taught there for about 12 years now, the students that I would have taught, like in my first couple years of teaching are now like, like in their, I guess they'd be in their early 20s now, very early 20s. But I've had I was doing a downtown art walk thing like last year or something, and I had someone come up to me after I performed, and he was like, "Are you Mr. Ferguson?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm Rich Ferguson." He's like, "I'm one of your old students from 10th Street." I was like, "Cool." And we were together. Crystal Ann and I were together earlier this year at a dance performance. This choreographer, Rosanna Gamson, that I've worked with before, and one of her sort of younger dancers, or one of the performers in the film, was an old student of mine. She came up to me, and but she would have been more recent because she's like in middle school now, and so middle school, early high school, and so it's nice to see some of my old students like out and about doing creative things and
practicing their critical thinking and analyzing.
Yeah,
that's good.
So
it's good to be making a difference. So, are you having any upcoming performances in spoken word?
No. There's something going on. Yeah, actually, I do. Depending on how soon this goes out, I have something coming up this Thursday night, which would be the 27th. At La Luz de Jesus Gallery, also known as Soap Plant in Silver Lake.
In Silver Lake, okay.
There's a Thursday night thing they're called Thursday Night Fish Fry, and I'm going to be doing some spoken word with a drummer, Butch Norton, who's played with Tracy Chapman, Eels. He was the co-founder of Eels, and he's playing with Lucinda Williams now, but he and I sometimes perform together. He's also in some of my spoken word videos. He's not in the all the times one because he was out on tour with Lucinda Williams when we shot that, but he actually played the drums in the studio on that track, which is and he actually played the drums on all the tracks that we're doing in the studio right now.
And what time is your performance on Thursday?
9:30.
9:30.
Yeah.
And for listeners out there, for you guys to understand, Rich Ferguson is actually considered a celebrity poet. Whether you guys,
whether I know it or not.
No, because we have a large spectrum of listeners and readers. So some are in it for the poetry, some are just getting exposed. But yes, he is considered a quote-unquote celebrity poet. He actually tours universities, colleges, different venues. So it is an honor for Star of News Magazine to be interviewing you.
Well, thank you.
Google him. He's not the magician.
Not the magician. Not the magician. But the magician is cool. If you want to see some good sleight of hand, Google that Rich Ferguson. If you want to see some
sleight of tongue,
Google this Rich Ferguson.
So this Thursday, do you happen to have the address for the place?
I don't have the exact address. If someone just Googles Soap Plant or La Luz de Jesus Gallery, it's on Hollywood Boulevard.
Okay.
It's on Hollywood Boulevard near just east of Vermont.
Okay, so it's the very edge of it's the very edge of Silver Lake.
Yeah,
I go out there too.
Yeah, it's like the edge of Silver Lake, Los Feliz area. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. And this is Lucky Smith signing off. Oh, do you have a shout out or anything for your fans or followers? A message for anyone?
Do what makes you happy. Yeah. Speak your heart. And and try to have fun doing it.
Thank you very much. And this is Lucky Smith signing off. Thank you.